That's the best song you could come up with going live is the Super Mario Brothers. Oh, thanks for the warning. All right, so everybody, welcome to another episode of Technical Defects. Very exciting to have our guest, or very excited to have our guest on tonight. As usual, I am Joe. That's Ryan, and our very special guest, Derrek Dennis Herbert, who is the CEO. There's like a long list here, so I actually have to look. I couldn't memorize this. CEO, director, producer, and creator of Masterfully Macabre. How do you pronounce that?
It's macabre.
Macabre. All right. I actually did research on that today for like 15 minutes, and I came up with 3 different pronunciations. So.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've heard a bunch of people pronounce it different ways, but we just kept going back to the one that, like all the horror people would say. I've heard Bill Moseley, Cassandra Peterson, like Felissa Rose. They've all said macabre. So I'm like, okay, they would know. And then I just verified with Kane, and he's like, "Yep. Yeah, what else would it be?" And I told him the other ones, and he's like, "No, it's macabre." And I'm like, "Perfect."
Well, obviously, we have a lot to discuss this evening. So let's just like kind of jump right into it. Well, how did you come about your business here and going into the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, well, I've been passionate about horror and filmmaking in general for pretty much my entire life. I was 3.5 years old when I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, and haven't changed my mind on that once since then. I saw Home Alone 2 in theaters, and when I was 3.5, told my dad, I want to do that. I want to make movies. And, he probably laughed it off, but now, 26 years later, here we are. But, yeah, I mean, so that's that. And then I went to film school down in Full Sail University in Florida, and then moved out here as soon as I graduated, and had been doing production and post-production work. And I wanted to make something that was like my first feature. And so I founded this company originally by myself, and then with my co-producer. His name's Andrew Barcelo. He and I joined forces he originally was just my attorney and good friend, and then he joined on board as a producer and is on everything that we do at Masterfully Macabre. And he's also a president in the company, because without him, honestly, we couldn't have made this movie. He reached out to Kane's attorney after we both read the book and saw some video with him, and after talking with her a bunch by himself and then with me, we set up a meeting with Kane. And like I said yesterday, what's amazing is that it took one meeting of convincing Kane that we were the right people for it, and we were locked. Like, we met with Kane that one time. We talked to people. I'm sure him and his manager had meetings, but we met Kane once, and then we were making this movie. So it was pretty fortunate that he was willing to trust people that he didn't even know to do this. But again, he says he has a good people instinct. It's the same thing that happened with Adam Green with Hatchet. He met with him one time at the same restaurant we were at, actually, and knew that this guy was the one that would, do something, even though he's been in the place where he's heard a lot of pitches before that turn into nothing. Especially in this industry, there's a lot of people pitching, and the movies never get made. Sure.
But your first venture is this major movie about a horror icon. That's just amazing.
No, I'm very fortunate that first of all, he was willing to trust us, and second of all, but I knew that that I could make this movie, because when I read the book, there was just something about his story that spoke to me and spoke to my producer, and both of us knew this was the project that we wanted to kind of get our footing. And then, we created a great team that were, our editor, Mike Hugo, has worked on like the Atlas Shrugged movies. He was just an editor on the Florida Project and stuff that was up for an Oscar. He is incredible at being able to do it. I assistant edited, but he was the one to come up with like so much of what we have, and our DP and stuff, shot what is incredible to a lot of people when I tell them we made a cinematic documentary. They think that a documentary, is going to be this flat, image that you barely see anything. And I was very insistent. We build sets, we go to places, we have enough lights to be able to give depth of field and make it something that, like, I'm very passionate about the fact that we shot it in a scope aspect ratio in 4K, and that we're getting the chance to have a theatrical run with our distributor. Even though it'll only be in a certain number of cities, those people will get to see it on the big screen like, we intended. And everyone else is going to have a beautiful Blu-ray and DVD, but it's even more incredible, I think, on the big screen in 5.1.
Absolutely. And we're going to discuss those dates in a little while, because that announcement yesterday at Monsterpalooza, that was just amazing the way it went down. Oh, very cool. Can you disclose which theaters or which areas it's going to be in?
I don't know if you've seen so far. They've Dread Central Presents have been doing screenings for their other films, Terrifier, The Lodgers, and then coming up soon, Imitation Girl. So it's definitely going to be at all of those theaters. I know there's I'm pretty sure it's like San Diego, San Francisco, Brooklyn. But I want to say, I think we're going to be close to 30 cities by the time To Hell and Back comes out. I'm hoping that we get even more, because I think because it's a documentary, it might even have a better chance of a lot of these independent theaters saying, yeah, we'll play it. And we're talking a one-day screening for most of them, which is good for them because they only have to risk one screening potentially, not making money, which I don't think is going to happen in this case. But in a lot of cases, they're worried that these independent films aren't going to have the draw. But even as the screenings that have already happened shown, people love seeing these movies on the big screen, and a lot of them wouldn't get the chance if somebody like Dread Central Presents didn't come along and really root for the theatrical element. A lot of them would get thrown up on VOD and stuff, and they're still rooting for, not only is VOD important, but they like the physical release, which is important to me too as a collector. I want to have a physical copy of my movie.
So you're pretty much you're dropping both physical and video on demand as well after the theater runs, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
What is the dates for the release on that?
The release in theaters is June 28th, 29th, and Friday the 13th of July, which is the next Friday the 13th, is VOD and a Blu-ray combo pack.
I just saw Joe Growl over there. What
hold on
that?
a second. Well, I was going to discuss the dates later on for a specific reason, but now that you brought it up, so the July date is, I don't want to call it an anniversary date, not something to be celebrated, but it's a very meaningful date to Kane.
Yeah, it's the 41st anniversary of when he actually had his burn accident. So now he's been a survivor for 41 years, which I think in that case, the reason I keep saying anniversary is because after, this many years, I think it's important I think he is able to celebrate the fact that he lived and came up with his amazing career afterwards. It's been 41 years is a long time, but it's also, like you said, I wouldn't necessarily say celebration, but it definitely is important to him that he, looks at it as an anniversary, because even though it was 41 years ago, the scars are still there, the memories are still fresh.
More or less commemorates it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why he brought that up to me when the distributor was talking about doing something in July. And that's when the distributor, Kane, and I all kind of were like, yeah, it might be a good idea to do it on the 13th. Not only is it a Friday, the 13th, which luckily his burn was not on a Friday, but still, in this case, because of his future career after the burn being Jason in 4 of the films and the video game, he definitely, that date is meaningful in that respect too. So for horror communities, or non-horror communities, it holds a very meaningful significance. So,
yeah. Well, I didn't want to interrupt Brian. I thought you were about to say something.
And I didn't want to jump on Joe again like I did last time. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I'm just looking at everything, and I'm looking at the horror celebrities that were in this production that have great memories of Kane and acting with them, or being in, going to cons, and the whole. Can you discuss being with them? And I'm trying to look for the proper verbiage. Having them on film and asking them these questions with great horror legends.
Obviously, as a fan and just a general admirer of the horror industry, it was incredible to have, to be in the same room working with, like, as an equal, as a colleague with people like Cassandra Peterson, who's had such a prolific career as Elvira and still looks incredible. Like, as Cassandra, as Elvira, she looks nowhere near her actual age. Similarly to Kane. I mean, Kane does not look his age at all. And Kane could still you up, and he, he just had his 63rd birthday, and I mean, I wouldn't say he looks anywhere near that age. So, I mean, the fact that being in a room with, like, Felissa Rose, and I mean, her and I are friends now. She's one of the sweetest people. Literally, like, will just text me out of the blue, asking me questions about the film. It was great to work with all of them. Like, we didn't have anyone who really mattered at all say anything but yes. Like, no one said anything but yes to doing this movie that we wanted in the film. There were, some, like, people who weren't able to do it because of scheduling, but nothing that was crazy. Everyone wanted to be a part of it because they care that much about Kane. And I was thrilled that they were on board. And that's why, I mean, it was much easier than I thought it would be to convince people to be in it, because we didn't have to convince them. It was literally like Kane would, like, email or call them up and say, they're doing a documentary, do you want to be a part of it? And they said yes. Like, unanimously yes. And I'm glad they did.
That's the one thing I've seen about this community, though, in the horror community. We've had some interaction with quite a few people there lately, because you guys have had some killer projects coming out. So we're like, hey, we got to do this. And I've noticed that everybody is real kind and works together and does for each other. And you don't see that a lot in these industries, especially the film industry.
No, it's a pretty cutthroat industry, and in a lot of the people. I mean, George Lucas said something years ago, back when he was, like, in charge of Lucasfilm and everything, that really has stuck with me and what I try to do. He said, "There's plenty of room in the industry for people, so we don't need to." He, like, never said no to a fan or a project that came in that was respectful to his material.
Right.
So, like, if Comedy Central with Adult Swim, they came up, they asked him, to do episodes, he always said yes, because they were fans spoofing it. Seth MacFarlane with Family Guy, yes. Even, like, Mel Brooks with, like, Spaceballs, yes. Back in the day, like, he wanted his material. The sincerest form of flattery is a spoof, and he knew that. And even for, like, these fan films, like, lately it feels like it's been more of an ordeal for the companies, because now Lucasfilm is corporately owned. But even then, they're trying really hard to be friendly. It's just, I understand both sides of it. You spending that much money on a crowdsourced, Star Wars film, I understand Disney being a little wary of it, because it's their property, but it's also like, these fans are just trying to do something fun. They're not getting paid anything. And that's where Disney ultimately was like, well, they're not getting paid. So if they want to make a fun fan film and not get any money from it, then but, like, going back to my point, which is, it is a very cutthroat industry. The horror community is very supportive of each other. And I mean, the fans, I mean, I'm not saying this about our movie, but they will support their favorite people in films that are not very good. Really, sometimes are not very good, but occasionally there's been plenty of movies he's been a part of where he's the best part. Like if you push him, he'll be like, yeah, but I still did my acting well. Like I still did what I could. It's like, yeah, and that's why people want to see you in them. Mm-hmm. But the film may not be great, but the people, like, I don't think they disappoint the icons. They always do their best. But unfortunately, not every film's a winner. But for this project in particular, I think they just wanted to be a part of it because Kane means so much to them. I mean,
exactly.
Adam and I now are having are talking about a new project together, and we're in early stages because he was, impressed with our ability to do this story, and it's not a very small thing for him to say to you that he wants to collaborate. So I'm looking forward to working with him.
I want to do a little thing that we do here. We do have with Facebook Live, we have the chat open and things like that. Danny Bailey, she's been excited about this all day long, let me tell you.
Yes, she has. She was very vocal with us yesterday too. Unfortunately, where we had the Facebook Live setup, we did not have the ability to answer questions from that. So I'm glad if she has a question, we'll be able to do it here.
Well, her thing right now is she's flying down from Alaska, to Phoenix, to meet Kane, and it's at Mad Monster on the 13th.
Yeah, she's going to be there. That's where he's doing the Tom Savini Hell Jason photo op. Okay. He's going to be in the full costume with like fake flames and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. She was just wondering, is there going to be anything special there concerning To Hell and Back?
To be potentially. Kane, the guy who runs it was actually there yesterday at Masterpalooza. Unfortunately, literally, we missed each other by a second. But Kane and I are talking about the possibility of doing something there. I'd like to do a screening there of the film, especially since that will be the first convention Kane will be at when the movie will be with him.
Okay.
So I can definitely say he will have physical copies for sale that he can sign right there. I'm hoping I can be there as well to do a screening and also do some signing as well, because I love to go out and meet all the fans. Maybe we can do some kind of a release thing with it, but there'll be more information soon. I need to talk with them to make sure that they're interested in any of that first, though.
A whole lot of talking in this business. Oof. Let me tell you.
Make it happen. Just make it happen.
I'm doing what I can to make that and other conventions happen, because I definitely enjoy going out and meeting people and honestly, this film, the few things we've gone to, Screamfest, Fright Fest, Scarefest, and stuff. It's moved so many people already that it's incredible to watch, and that's why I like the idea of being able to go after these screenings. And I'm even going to try to go to a couple of the, as many as I can of the theatricals to try to do Q&As and really get to see.
Kind of tour it a little bit.
Exactly, because if I can, I'd like to be there so that people can, get questions answered by me and not just by, the community. So
right. And Danny even she said, please come. I'd love to meet you. That would be awesome. So
I'll to make that happen, Danny.
So if I recall correctly, I'm trying to think back to almost a year ago now when Kane. It could hurt. Yeah. When Kane was on the show, did you guys originally do the premiere screening across the pond?
We did, yeah. The world premiere was at Fright Fest in London, which is a huge horror convention over there that this year they did like really early screenings of like Leatherface, and Cult of Chucky was like their opening night movie, and they played Victor Crowley was the big screening the same day we did Hell and Back's premiere. That was like the first UK screening anyway of that movie. They had just done their surprise screening in LA 3 days earlier than that, which I was invited to and wanted to make, but already had all my tickets and stuff. I was in London as they were doing it. So I think we were on the plane going to London as they were doing the premiere in Hollywood. So we literally probably crossed over it as they were world premiering it. So
hey, look, it's our movie. Wave, hi. Oh, sorry. That's what I swear to God, I would have been right up there against the window going, I see our movie. So we were talking about just do it, just get up, make it happen, things like that. And it almost seems like the guerrilla style of get up and get it done is what's making it in the industry nowadays. I mean, I'm going to use Joe and myself as an example. We're not kicking down doors yet, but we started out of the whole thing. We're like, all right, well, podcast sounds cool. We go, well, what if we do this? What if we do this? I go, you know what we should do? He's like, what's that? We're both at the same time. We're like, let's just do it. Just get on there and do it. Yeah. And the best is the mistakes you learn from along the way, because holy shit, have I made some mistakes. But the coolest part of the whole thing is I've gotten to build up my collection behind me. Now, the reason I bring that up, you were saying you're a collector as well. What's your favorite thing in your collection out there, man?
All right. Probably, I have a friend who lives in, and he lives and works out of Chile, the country, and he has he makes custom masks. He has like Facebook stuff. It's Wolfman Horror merch, and he made an incredible Victor Crowley mask. And now I actually I'm not there because it's in an awkward place in the hallway, but I have 4 or 5 masks by him. Yeah, I have a Victor, a Freddy, Part 7, and a Crypt Keeper, all up on the wall. And they're all he does them all handmade in latex. That's really cool. I mean, I love the machetes and stuff that we actually have them for sale. I love them because they're black and signed in silver. I think they're pretty cool. There's just we keep trying. We have this, so those probably machetes. I have a machete that I found at a convention throughout the shooting where somebody hand painted Part 7 Jason onto the machete, and then I have Kane signed it. I have way too many things signed by Kane.
Hey, Joe.
Now he just...
You got to do me a favor. Remind me to not break into his house. Okay? Because I'm going to walk down a hallway, and there's just going to be machetes and knives and Jason and the Crypt Keep. What the shit?
Well, the cool thing is, okay, so we've had Kane Hodder on our show. We've had John Kassir on our show, who is the voice of the Crypt Keeper. Yeah. We got to work on Robert Englund.
Yeah, Robert is one of those people where I was very, very surprised. I was not surprised we were able to get him. I was surprised that he was willing to take the amount of time. He was supposed to be gone in 20 minutes, but because he loves Kane that much, he was there for an extra 45 minutes. He was there about an hour doing an interview, and he apparently the line at his table, he didn't even tell his manager he was spending any more time with us. So his line was growing, and I'm just getting when we brought him back down there. This was at the Walker Stalker Con in Atlanta. We brought him back to the behind the scenes area where he got in a golf cart and was getting rushed off to go back to his booth. I looked finally down at my phone because obviously it's muted when I do interviews, and there's 40 missed calls from his manager. And finally I call him back, and he's like, "Where's Robert?" I just wanted to make sure, he has a photo op in 10 minutes. And so he was rushing off to sign a couple autographs before rushing off to a photo op. And but that's, it shows the dedication. But your best bet for him will probably be convention stuff. If he comes to a convention by you, getting in there, just because his schedule is so crazy.
Oh, I can imagine.
Now, the next time the manager calls you asking where he is, be like, "I don't know. We can't locate the body."
Which actually brings up the picture that Ryan just had on screen. I'm assuming you'd be able to see it. And
Yeah.
it was in the movie, which was really cool to see in the movie.
So this was at the same convention, Walker Stalker. We had a couple other shots in the movie as well where they had, because we got to do we showed the video in the movie of that picture, and we showed some other video. They were doing this group photo op, strangely enough, called Freddy versus Jason, and which it really was. That's the one the fans wanted anyway. So
Absolutely.
So they had, this cool photo op, and we were filming in there for it. So then the other guy in there is our director of photography, Zach Hunter. Him and I were both like, we're good friends. We're like, Kane, can we get a picture as a last shot here? And we'll keep the camera running. We'll get a picture. So we got that, they did that. And Kane walks over to the photography people and it's just give them a copy. Because usually, people pay good money.
Oh,
to
yeah.
get them, and he was just give them a copy. They did my documentary. They can spare whatever small amount of money they lost. But we were the only people that particular photography company gave permission to film in ever. They haven't given permission before or since. But we got apparently they did not want Kane causing any issues, and Kane and Robert both agreed to it. And all the fans were briefed before they got in there that they were going to be on camera. They didn't want it, that we could stop recording for them. And, everyone was thrilled about the potential of being in Kane's documentary. I would be if I walked around and up and they were like, you might be in this person's documentary. It's fine.
Well, hey, I mean, that's the wheelhouse right there. I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I said I stuck myself in twice in this documentary.
What's the other time? Or are we going to look for? Do we have to hunt for that?
Is it an Easter egg?
It's sort of an Easter egg. I mean, I'll tell you guys off camera once it's done, just because I'm interested to see if any of the fans are actually able to find the second time. The first one's easy because I'm literally on screen, but the other time it's sort of a little more hidden. So yeah.
I got to think back now.
He's photobombing in the back corner.
I've actually had the honor of watching this movie, and I was just completely blown away how deep it was. And to see Kane, who, not a small guy, kind of, getting emotional. It was...
Hey,
I got emotional with him getting emotional.
Big guys cry too.
Seriously, I was getting emotional with him getting emotional, going, holy crap. I'm not giving anything away, but it was just, it's deep. It really is. Derrek, I mean, you guys did a phenomenal job. And so do you have a different aspect or a different viewing of Kane from first perceived him as Jason?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Kane. I mean, Bruce Campbell said a cool line. I know it's in our trailer, but it's one of my favorite things that he says in there, which is you'll meet a lot of these guys who play the heroes, and they're often
assholes.
Sort of assholes in real life. Bruce being an exception of that, of course, but the villains are some of the nicest people. Robert, Cassandra, sort of not really a villain, but kind of along the same, horror-esque. Felissa, all of them, are very nice, and Kane is definitely not an exception to that. He's an incredible guy, and he cares really deeply about about people. Like even yesterday, he was saying during the screening that the Q&A that he did not want certain things filmed because he thought it would make him look pompous, make it look like he was self-satisfying or self-serving in some way by doing it. But like I said there, he had the final cut. He never ended up using it, and he was able to go deep into this. And I think he's one of those people that's genuine, very nice. When he talks to fans, you can tell there's a real one-on-one there. He's not just faking it for the money.
Even
he doesn't take their money to have an interaction. In fact, many people will just go up to him who've seen him before just to say hi. They'll wait in line to say hi. They won't buy an autograph. They won't take a picture. They just want to see him and say hi. And, he doesn't have any kind of issue with that. He wants to see them. He wants to hear how their lives are going.
I've kind of got an interesting story about Kane. It's when I first contacted him to be on the show, and I got this strange email from an AOL account. And I'm like, all right, this has to be a joke, but sure as hell it was him. And it was just like, AOL, really?
You thought you were getting emails from the Crown Prince of Singapore and
exactly. But it panned out, and it was. We were still early in our podcast career, but he was just the nicest guy. One of the coolest things that he did in the interview with us was he said, "I respect my fans," and then he panned out with his computer with the camera, and he showed all the gifts he got from fans that were artwork. And Ryan, there was artwork, there were plush
it was all
toys.
kinds of just stuff that people had made, and I mean, you could tell that meant more to him than any prop or anything from any of the movies that he has. That meant the most to him right there. You could tell.
Yeah, in his office, he has quite a few things that people have made and given to him, because I think he still thinks after all this time that how incredible it is to be fortunate enough where people care that much, and even the fans to us, we have this one, it's like a metal print that a fan Derrek Digital made that's Kane with Victor Crowley and Jason and stuff that I have up, and I have I wore it yesterday, and I wear it every time I do events for the movie. It's like a Part 7 Jason pin that these fans made, and I always have that on my suit jacket that I wear whenever I do any kind of promotional stuff, because I think it's incredible that somebody would put they take their time. In London, we met this one girl who does a lot with cakes. She made, I don't know if you've seen the Adam Green cake on Facebook. She made, but there she had a Victor Crowley, a 24-inch or 18-inch doll that she handmade everything. It was like an action figure. It looked exactly like the one in the movie. It had hair. It had movable features. It was incredible. And pretty sure she gave it to Adam. I think she gave it to Adam for the, screening at Fright Fest. Either that or he signed it for her, or she had two. I don't remember, but I was blown away by how cool it was.
That is awesome.
What's funny is you were talking about it looking like an action figure. All this crap I have on display behind me, man, Kane called me out. I don't have any Jason back here. Oh, yeah. he got in my ass on that one.
I have a Jason X, like an Uber Jason.
Yeah.
My shelf. I have that. I have a bunch of masks. I have a Camp Crystal Lake sign. I have a few things. I'm a much bigger, and this is probably going to alienate some people, so maybe I should say, much bigger Hatchet fan than I am a Jason fan. But because that's where I got my start on Kane. Honestly, my director of photography back in college showed me the first Hatchet movie, and I loved it and had followed that, and then got turned on to Jason and watched all of those movies. And by far, even before I fully knew who Kane was, I still loved Part 7, and Jason X have always been my favorite two Friday films. And I love Jason X. That's still Jason X probably takes the cake over any others for me, just because even though it's ridiculous, it's so much fun. It's such a fun movie.
It's a great movie, and don't know what I can discuss or should discuss from the film, but seeing some of the scenes from that movie on there and the background, and it was just phenomenal. One thing I wanted to bring up was, sorry, I actually have to look at my notes.
That's an interview faux pas.
Well, I'm sorry, but there's so much cool stuff here that I have 3 pages worth of stuff handwritten.
That's all right. We'll learn you, Joe. We'll learn you.
Right? But the Death House. So you had the writer on there also, which is really cool.
Yeah, we got to have the writer-director Harrison Smith come on, and he was one of the writers, because the original writer of it was Gunnar Hansen.
Well, exactly.
Who unfortunately passed away before the movie got made, but they were able to, they wanted to, like, as an homage to him, like an honor to him, to take the film he was pitching around and caring about and get it made. Yeah, I was glad. Harrison was very well spoken and also just like another great guy in the industry. I mean, he's made so many movies lately, independent films, and Death House. I still haven't seen Death House. I need to see Death House. I need to get out there.
And there's a screening next week in Jacksonville that I'm tempted to go to. They actually called upon us to help promote that a little, which is a whole nother different thing. But I just thought it was cool as hell that.
I'm very excited to see it. I might end up reaching out to Harrison and seeing if there's any way to get a screener of it, because I was so thrilled that we got Felissa in the doc, we have Kane in there, Bill Moseley, Sid Haig.
Yes.
We have and we didn't have her in the doc, but in London she actually came to the screening because she was there for a film she was in. We had Barbara Crampton come. She literally sat in the theater and watched Kane's movie, and I got to see her yesterday, and she kept saying how much how great of a story it was, how much it meant to her, and it's always nice to hear from the people who are these big icons in the industry and still working, still doing lots of stuff. We also had Tate Steinsick, I believe his name is. He was a winner and on I think he was on 2 different seasons of Face Off. I believe he won
Face Off, yes.
Yeah. Now he's directing movies and doing big effects. It's incredible to get to see these people time and time again, because it's sort of like you can tell they're sort of a big family, the convention folk, like the ones who keep going, because a lot of them are the same. They'll see each other at 5 or 6 plus conventions all around the U.S. and beyond every year.
Okay, so my question to you now is,
yes,
how do you top what you're doing now?
That's actually a question I'm trying to figure out. No, I mean, the next person whose documentary I make, I have a few ideas, a few thoughts. I want to do something. I have a few narrative projects I'd like to direct. It's just trying to find the right project, and also, funding is a thing too. So I'm always looking for investors, and the movie hasn't come out yet, Kane, so we haven't made any of the money back. So once we do that, then the next one's much more speedily going to happen. But we have a project that Andrew and I produced called They're Inside, which is a home invasion thriller that's in final stages of post-production right now. And it's very exciting, and people are going to love that movie, horror fans especially, but even not horror fans. I feel like people who like a good thriller are going to dig it as well. And then there's a few other projects like the Holliston documentary we're working on with Adam Green, which is sort of like the Rocky of documentaries in a lot of ways, because it's about this little project that could, and this, especially this one guy, Adam, fighting so hard to get it made. And even once it did get made, he's still fighting insanely hard to bring it back. He wants that 3rd season. to happen so badly. And in his own words, he said he cares more about Holliston coming back in a lot of ways than he does about any of the other projects he's made. Like, that is the reason he got in the business to do. And, all the other things are just wonderful icing on the cake for him. But, that's the project. So I feel like that one, in a lot of ways, is sort of a worthy follow-up, because there's a lot of stuff that his story he hasn't shared to anybody yet. And I feel like it's, in a lot of ways, going to reach the same highs and lows that Kane's did, which is pretty, is sort of the reason why it's difficult, because there's a lot of people who made it. Not a lot of people have the same up and down that Kane does, because, as you guys know who have seen it, it goes, his career is like Jason up here, high up, and then Freddy versus Jason down here, and then back up and Hatchet, or bullying, and then everything's good, or bullying, and then everything's good, and then, the burn happens. So, there's a lot of wave kind of motion in the film, which is, one of the reasons that I think it's working for people, is because there's just as many high points as low points. And I think, I think that it, that's what I'm looking for the next one. Is a story, and not making one up. I don't want to make a story like one of those VH1 behind the music type things where, and then tragedy struck.
And then tragedy struck on the beautiful beach.
And then, and all it was she had, her accounts were hacked and she lost a couple $1,000 or a manager quit and then she found a new one right away. That's not tragedy.
Exactly. First world problems.
That's a fake. That's a fake hype thing. And with Kane's, we didn't have to do that at all. Everything. In fact, we were afraid in some instances we were downplaying things, and he brought that up a little yesterday, just because of the magnitude of the stuff, the malpractice that happened. Putting it, we went through a bunch of cuts before it got to the one it is now. And at one point was 20 or 30 minutes of malpractice stuff. Then we cut it way down and it was 1 minute and it didn't work. So I think that's why we ended up doing the montage, because the montage made works. It signifies how much was wrong with the medical care and the malpractice, but doesn't make it seem less important because it kind of drags on, or doesn't seem important because there's so little of it.
Okay, so on that note, I saw what you sent me, and it was friggin' phenomenal. So how is that going to differentiate from what people are going to see at the movie theater, on demand, and Blu-ray? Is there going to be a lot of extras on the Blu-ray?
I'm hoping. That's what I'm doing actually right now is with the distributor, we're going through the old 6-hour cut of the film is my first endeavor. I'm going to go through that and I'm going to see. There were a lot of things that were in that version that aren't in the final version because of time crunch. We didn't want to have a movie that was 3 hours long. Although I feel like we could have done an incredible 3-hour cut. I'm very happy with the cut the way it is now. So I think the best thing for the fans and for the movie isn't to do some kind of long-winded director's cut. It's to just go through, find all these scenes and these moments that enhance the story and put them as bonus features. So I'm trying to gather as much as we can. Now, like I said yesterday and many times before, we had 39 hours of footage of just Kane, plus all the other people, plus all the movies, plus B-roll and all the other stuff we gathered while shooting. So there's a lot I can do, and assuming, the film does well, I would not be opposed to 10th anniversary, a 5th anniversary edition where I keep going back and grabbing more bonus features for people. It's just, for this one, we're doing a Blu-ray DVD combo where the Blu-ray is going to have a bunch of bonus features on it. The DVD will have a little bit, and then I'm hoping that they'll let us on the VOD platforms put at least some bonus feature of some kind, because I'd love to have like the iTunes extras or that kind of thing, just so that people, if they decide not to go physical, can get some of it. Like physical is going to have the most for sure, but the digital stuff would be nice as well. I'd like to give people something, and that's something I'll be talking with my distributor about, seeing what we can do and what they'll allow, because a lot of the VOD platforms are a little more cautious of what they do for bonus feature stuff. Blu-ray and DVDs, we get to decide, us and the distributor, like what is it the fans will want. They get to decide for VOD what they will allow. So, but DVD and Blu-ray, we're giving a lot of bonus stuff, as much as we can fit on the disc.
And
I'm going to want an autographed copy, by the way. So when it does come out, I will be purchasing it. I will be sending it to your home, and I expect that back in a timely manner.
Shit, I think Joe's going to drive it to your house. Be like, I'm here. You didn't know I was coming, but I'm here.
You said Jacksonville, so you're over in Florida, right?
I'm in Florida. I'm on the Treasure Coast. I'm about 3 hours south of Jacksonville.
Okay.
I'm nowhere near
Jacksonville,
that.
The Treasure Coast is that along the Gulf, or is that is Treasure Coast along the Atlantic there?
Atlantic, yes.
Atlantic, okay. Jacksonville's pretty far south, right?
Pretty far north of me.
North of you. Okay.
All right.
So how far north is like Orlando? I'm just asking because like spooky empires in Orlando.
Orlando is about an hour and a half northwest of me.
Okay. Because Spooky Empire is a huge convention that I'm not sure if you're doing it this year. It's hard. I wish that all the celebrities in some ways would have a website where they post
with like their schedule.
Exactly, because it's very difficult to find sometimes the schedule of the people that we were going to use in the film.
Right on. Did we freeze up?
Yeah, I was going to say the internet gods have told us that we need to begin wrapping it up now.
Oh, I had so much more to ask, man.
Well, there's 52 weeks in the year. We got, I would be more than happy to have Derrek back on, and we could hit everything up.
I'm hoping that Derrek would join us again if he ever has anything to announce, promote, or just want to kind of shoot the stuff.
If you're bored, it's a Monday night. What the hell? I'm going to go talk with these guys.
Yeah, I'd definitely be more than willing to come back. I don't know why it's freezing. My end shows my video still, but
so do I.
Yeah, well, we're getting connections coming in from 3 different locations, all coming into a central location.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, I'm more than willing to come back in the future and discuss maybe when the movie is about to come out on theaters or DVD, one of the two, we can meet back up and discuss like once features or there's anything more we can announce.
Well, why don't you go ahead and give us the dates on To Hell and Back? I got the poster up for everyone to see right now.
Perfect. June 28th and 29th is when it's going to be in select theaters. More information on that will be available as we have it at kanehoddermovie.com. It'll also be available on VOD and Blu-ray combo pack on July the 13th Friday the 13th in July in this year, 2018. So you guys can look forward to that.
Right and we definitely are. And again, everybody out there, I've seen this, and it was just, it really was heartfelt. And I mean, not to use heartfelt with horror documentary, it was, I got choked up. It really meant a lot to me seeing somebody like that speaking the way he did. Guys, watch this. You're going to enjoy it. It already has like a 9.0 on IMDb. it's spectacular. It really is.
Well,
All right.
thank you.
Well, again, Derrek, thank you very much for joining us. Anything else to add, Joe?
Nope. We'll see you next week. And Derrek, if you could hang out for about 40 more seconds after we sign off, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, everyone. You have a great night.
See ya.